Well, my day started a bit earlier than some of you. I went to bed last night. Now, before I went to bed, I knew I had two options today. Wake up very early, 4:30, and get a shower, get underway, and go school Captain Incredible. Or sleep in a little bit, take my time, and just make my way to Scioto Downs tonight. Now, really, the difference between the two was time. I was going to have to spend the better part of 6 hours driving to Scioto, or drive 5 hours to the Meadows, school Captain Incredible, take my time getting to Scioto Downs, go there, race our girl, Steph's Hope, and then decide whether I'm going to continue down to Kentucky or stay overnight in Scioto. Either one's fine with me. Just depends how I feel later this evening. Now, what I did want to do was go to Berea and drive Gorgeous Package, actually. But I didn't realize their post time was 4 o'clock, which seems odd. Most of the fares are around 12, 1, something like that. Had that happened, it wouldn't have been a problem. But with a 4:30 post, I can't make it to Steph's Hope. And since I have to go to Kentucky anyway, although I'm sure there's anybody who can drive Steph's Hope, the same kind of applies for Gorgeous Package. So Ryan Stahl is going to drive Gorgeous Package, I'm told. I'm going to make my way to Kentucky, or to Scioto, to drive Steph's Hope, and then on to Kentucky, where our first stake races of the week will take place, and that is with Hangar 1 and Steady Bolo. So last night, I knew we'd kind of have a ho-hum start to the week. We had JK Victory, who, you really got to rev him up and drive him hard. But when two favorites leave out, make front, it's hard to do that. His best racing, aside from last week, which I thought he raced very, very well. Aside from last week, his best racing is usually done on the front end. Yet, he hasn't got there very often at Mohawk. And in fact, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the last time he got there, it wasn't a great result either. So there's a part of me that says, well, we are trying to load up our horses for the fall and give them a little break, a little rest. We did that with Spitfire overseas. You may see us do that with a couple other horses aside from 2-year-olds. Just trying to get them prepped and ready for the winter and the fall. And does JK Victory fit that bill? I don't want to make that decision after one start. I think his 3 previous starts were pretty good, all things considered, on the B-Tracks, Georgian, and Grand River Raceway, 3 or 4 starts. So last night, a 5th with him, ho-hum, kind of flat, right? Kind of okay. 51-4, I guess, nothing to sneeze at, but kind of just okay. And then obviously Chicago Hall, Dominic messaged me after and said, Jody said it was his fault and the trip didn't work out his way. And I said, no, it's not really his fault. You got away in a good spot. The fault was of the pace itself, 27-157. I think if you look at all of Chicago Hall's best races, they all came after stronger halves, right? 27, 55 in a piece, 56. But when they got that second quarter breather and had a little bit of pop to them when he came to them, he never really ever seemed to race as good. I always felt he was better with a stronger half, but we didn't get that last night. I think we got the result. He might have been a little flat, might have been a little mucus, but Dominic said there was no blood found, and I think he was just a victim of the trip. Jody didn't drive him bad. I think it was just the way that the race worked out. And then, of course, last night we watched Urbana go. Now, Justin Irvine called me right after the race with Dios de Aladonza. He said that wasn't the filly's fault. She got run into twice. I tried to watch the video and it skipped ahead right to the final, and I never got a chance to watch the race. He said, no, I run into in the first part of the race and then I got cleaned out coming around the last turn of the race. He said she was fine, which was hard for me to discern looking at the results. There was no eyes, and her race went in 2:2, or her 2 minutes, where the second race went in 2 minutes. So let's see how the border is to me today. Just 1 second. Sometimes it's quick, sometimes it's not. Well, it's always pretty quick, but there we go. 1 second. How are you? No, sir.
You working deals?
Yeah, I have a 01. I got a. Yeah.
Okay.
Have a good day. Worked pretty easy. So it was hard to discern. Well, there's the border. I know a lot of people ask me, do you have any trouble going through the border? Now I have a visa. I don't just have my Nexus card. So it's a little different. But I don't know that many people that get trouble at the border. I know I've had a couple of people message me saying, I was going to come over, but I just didn't know what the border was like. You know, how hard it is to get through. Well, there you have it. It took 10 seconds. So, Diosa della Danza, it was hard for me to digest that, but the fact that Justin picked up the phone and called me, and I mean, like, literally within 3 minutes of the race being over, he called me to say no, she could run into in the first turn, she could run into in the last turn, she was going to be second or third, and actually was better than her line is about to show. It was very nice of him to call, so I'll take it for what it is. We need to stack productive races for her together, and although optically looking at the mile, it's not really a whole lot to look at. If he thought she raced good and he was happy with her, then so be it. Highest honors, just can't, not a first over type, right? He's a nice little handy horse, but you can't rough him up, right? When Aaron drove him, took him to the back, now he's 3 wide the last 3/8. He raced tough in that regard, but otherwise leave, sit, cover him up. He'll take a good mark and he'll be a good little horse for us. But that first over, unless the front end horse has no business being on the front end, that first over trek is just a little stiff for him. So our week, I knew would start a little slow last night looking at our lineup. I'd like to see improvements from all of the horses. We need better trips, or better trip from highest honors, you know, and I knew where Justin was coming from. You know, sit behind a horse that was gapping the front end, or move him and give him a shot to race. I think given the entire situation, again, I don't think anybody would have driven the horse differently. I just know him. You're better to sit, wait. But like I said, everything being what it was and it being a stake race, I don't really blame him for moving the horse. Diosa della Danza, I'll take his word on it, because I know that she raced okay, and that was just her first start on Lasix when I drove her last time. Last night would have been her second start, and he said she actually did race good. So we'll put her Banna to bed with a tiny little question mark, and then when it comes to Mohawk, I'm almost certain Chicago Hall, just not his type of trip, off slow fractions, and JK Victory just needs to do a little bit better. So again, I'll put that one aside for now, but I am watching what takes place with him in the next little while. Now today we have Berea, where I think Gorgeous Package will do fine, and then we have Scioto, where I think Steph's Hope, they don't give her a lot of respect, right? 6-1. I can't see the lines on Scioto just yet, but you know, I would suspect she'll try 58, 59. Does that not put her in contention of a 2-year-old maiden? I thought it might, but from the rail at 6-1, it would make me believe that I'm wrong. I don't know. We'll see how she does tonight. Tomorrow is where the stake races start. Now a little softer this week. We get back to the stake racing as the weekend, as the weekend comes and goes. But Wednesday will be stake races for us. Now that's not true. Our first stake race is today with Solidarity, so I am eager to see how he races today. What's this thing doing? Yeah. Solidarity races at 4:40, then Steph's Hope, then Delicious Stone, who's probably our best shot to start the week. And then tomorrow, another great shot with Cherry's Girl, first start Lasix. I'll be interested to see how she races. Gaslight Hall from the outside, I'm torn on that one. It's 6 days to his grassroots race. Yes, I do plan on returning him to Ontario, because I think he is a good grassroots horse. I was hoping he would win last week, come back with a good performance again tonight, but with the 7-hole and a half-mile track, I don't know how that'll play out. You're going to have to ask Tyler to drive the horse conservatively. The last thing I want is him hurt and beat up going back to Ontario. That was the opposite of the plan, bringing him here. And then I'll drive Megan's Hope and Resolve Indeed, see if we can figure out a plan forward. Now, Resolve Indeed did fit the Meadows, and I was planning to race her in the Meadows this week, but she was getting in at Northfield, and I did want to give this class one more look, just because it's never usually that tough, but it was last week. And then, of course, Jim Bree draws the 8-hole off a scratch 6. We're going to have to drive her easy also. But the biggest storyline to start the week, aside from the stake race of Solidarity, which I'll be watching closely, is the stake races from Hangar 1 and Steady Bolo. very interested to see how the races with them play out. And then we have the Ohio State races coming up next week, starting on Sunday with Uncle Danny and Supermind racing in the Sire Stakes in Ohio. I know a lot of people have asked me and messaged me and said, well, wouldn't it make more sense to drop Uncle Danny and Supermind down? Well, here's the thing. You can only race in the super final, the final, right? Or the final for the Buckeye. And I just think these are both gold colts. I think they're both Sire State colts. Both of them showed great improvements coming off of very lackluster trips. Both horses, one had a high AST in Uncle Danny, and the week before that was his first start on Lasix. The other colt showing a high weight count. Both come back with, as I said, very strong performances again. And I think as the year goes on, I think both colts are going to be very handy colts, and both certainly stamped their march back into the Sire Stakes, I believe, in their last trips, which were the Ohio State Fair races last week in Scioto. I just don't see, we talked about Uncle Danny dropping down, but that's if he couldn't race with these horses. I believe he can. So we'll see how they race this week, but I believe Sunday they both warrant starts in the Sire Stakes again Sunday, and that's our home track at Northfield. So we'll see how that plays out. The fillies, I believe, go first part of next week. I'm in Kentucky Monday and Tuesday also. So there's going to be a lot of racing going on. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday is when the next bulk of stakes start coming in again. I haven't touched base with Megan in regards to Perfect Thought. She sent me a note the other day, actually asked me for my thoughts on her calendar. She was a little bit sick after the race. Oddly enough, it's always optimistic to say, well, you got a little bit of snot there, but that's just a head cold. I'm sure she'll be fine. The reality is it falls under the heading more times than not, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? You see a little mucus, she might scope clean, your blood might come back good, but that's probably the start of something. And I think if you drew her blood today, her white count would be a little higher than the high normal. So getting over a little bit of a bug, and she'll race back soon. I did not look up her calendar. I know she got a few of those little New Jersey stakes coming up. And then she has a New Jersey Classic. Of course, she is paid into the Breeders' Crown. And she is also paid into, what's that race later in the year? The Three Diamonds or whatnot. So lots of racing coming up for some of our heavy hitters. Jailbird Jog will race next Monday or Tuesday, as will the rest of the fillies. So from my point of view, all is well in Kentucky. Eric said everything is running smoothly and operating well. So we'll see how those horses race this week. In New Jersey, Perfect Thought will race when she's at 100%, and that will be up to Megan. A very contentious point for myself also over the last 2 weeks has been Memento Mori. Where are we going to go with him? I was working with the understanding there was a consolation for the Sire Stakes in New York, and I was wrong. There is not a consolation for the Sire Stakes in New York. You either make the final or you don't. And from my standpoint, it just makes little sense. We're going to ship all the way down to Saratoga because you can't make the Excelsior final. Right? We don't have enough starts in the Excelsior or enough points or money made in it. You'd have to win out the last three and hope, I believe, and I don't even know if you'd have enough points. That's if you could win out the last three. My plan was to take him and race him in the last three Sire Stakes, accumulate enough points to secure our spot in the consolation, whatever that went for, wherever it might be, and then continue on. Well, I was wrong. There is no consolation. So I'm not taking Memento Mori. I know I've had multiple conversations with clients saying, could we not go back to Kentucky? Well, Memento Mori showed blood. A couple of starts. We have on Lasix. It makes little sense to take him to Kentucky, especially when the 3-year-old Commonwealth Trotters went 50-2 yesterday. A little blast from the past there. The horse that did that was a horse named Uno. That may ring a bell. Uno is the brother to Una Madonna, the filly that we had a few years ago. So I have no interest in going down to Kentucky where one of the bottom classes goes in 150. No thanks. I would say the two front runners now is rinse and repeat in the Meadows until we get him back to where we want him. There were some markers in his blood that we can work on, and we are working on. My other option that I was thinking about quietly was sending the horse to Ontario to race. But again, without, at least right now, the confidence that he would get in a class he could do well in week in and week out. My problem is you send him to Ontario, all of a sudden he gets combined with the backup class or the third class, and all of a sudden the Nommers of 70 is also the Nommers of 12. Oh, and by the way, somebody from the Open's dropping in there, because those things happen they happen everywhere, but they definitely happen in Ontario. So I'm just not sure if that's something I want to do right now. I don't think it makes the most sense. And I was thinking about sending the horse to Saratoga and Plain Ridge to go and Mark Beckwith. But again, is that the right play also? I don't know. I don't think there's a 100% right path. There's a number of options moving forward. I think the one that I'll stick to right now is just to race him at the Meadows on Friday and see how he bounces around, see how he comes back. I know a lot of our clients say, can we not do special blood work to find out what's wrong with him? The reality of Memento Mori is this. He was a 54, 55 trotter, a nice 2-year-old in with other trotters that could trot in 54, 55. Now he's a 3-year-old, and there's a multitude of trotters who can trot faster or as fast as him. Taking away the Lasix issue, which is real, you could race him in Kentucky where they just went 150. Or we could race him at the Meadows where they go 154, 155. So he said, well, why didn't he get better as a 3-year-old? Some horses just don't. You know, we've always joked about it as a 2-year-old. Memento Mori is not a good-looking horse. He's a small, little, scrawny horse that can trot, did at 2, was as strong and probably as fast as he'll ever be in July of his 2-year-old year. That's why he looked so good last year, and that's why he looks so ordinary this year. Still a quality overnight horse. A horse that can trot in 55, still a good horse. Just got to find the right place for him. And I'll be the first to admit, it just feels like we missed an area. Should he have been in Plain Ridge? Should he have been in Ontario? How would he have been if we had one less tougher horse to race against in that condition race at the Meadows? You know, he come off those starts where he was 4th, 3rd, 2nd, and I'm saying he's sitting on a win, and I fully expected Dave Plone to win with him. He raced poorly. I said, well, you know, Dave might have shut his air in the first turn. I'm gonna let him rock. And I did. And he raced poorly. He drew his blood. Platelets were low, iron was low, red count was low, bilirubin was high. That would suggest the horse is bleeding, but upon scoping him, and we waited a full hour and a half after the race, if there was any sort of bleeding, we should have seen it, yet we didn't, which would lead me to believe, as a layman, somebody who's seen a lot of blood work also in horses, maybe it's some ulcers that were bothering him, so we put him on medication, a little more aggressive medication for his ulcers. We'll see how that plays out this week. So yes, a little point of contention has been Memento Mori. But he'll get there. Time is on my side is back in now, jogging at Tim's. He'll have some sort of a prep race. I have him penciled in as his next race being the Jim Ewart Memorial. I think it's an invitation also. Not positive though. Jim Ewart in Scioto. And then the Dayton Derby, the Breeders' Crown, and some racing in between them. But that is where Time is on my side is headed. A number of 2-year-olds. This time of year, we opted to turn out a little bit earlier this year. I had some people saying, well, why would we turn out a horse like Leland Hanover? He's 1, 2, 3, 4 every week. He's racing well. Pacing in 55, 54. Well, everything you just said is right. But then what? We're just racing him to race him. The whole point of racing your 2-year-olds is to, 1, hopefully have a stake horse, and 2, allow them to mature and set them up for their 3-year-old season and beyond. That's the way I would, or most trainers would view what a 2-year-old season constitutes. It isn't just going out and racing your horses the max amount of starts no matter what and seeing how they do. There's nothing more to teach Leland Hanover. He understands racing. He did his work as best he could. It's a June 11th foal. He's Better's Wish's brother. There's some deep pedigree there. He's got a great attitude and a great work ethic now. Why turn him out? Let him mature. When I look at a lot of the other colts, you get the big, strong, athletic ass on them because they're mature. A little more mature. They still have to grow too, but a little more mature than Leland. He did have a nice rump on him, but it wasn't quite as muscular as it could be. And I just thought if we gave him time for him to fill out and grow out and mature, we could put more muscle on this horse. We started him back up and brought him back. Now I like to use the blueprint of Time Is On My Side, right? Because it worked. But I don't know that we've ever had a horse on paper that looks more or as much like Time Is On My Side, right? In fact, Leland Hanover's 2-year-old season was much better than Time Is On My Side's. Big, muscular horse, can be moody at times. Gave him time off, brought him back. Different animal. And that's always the hope, right? Is that we can build all of our babies into the very best forms of themselves. And how we do that is different for every horse almost sometimes. Some horses just can't get there. Those horses we'd put up for sale in the next sale and preferred. Right? Next Monday. You know that. You know who they are. I added He's a Fearless Peter to the list. We already had Perfection Hanover, Go Strong Hanover, and Captain Doolittle on that list. They've done what they can do. I just don't think they're going to be stable horses. Some horses we moved around a little bit. Some horses we put on Lasix. And some horses we've turned out. I just think their best racing is ahead of them. And racing them now may not help us get there in the best way. As I say to everybody, that maiden will always be there. That numbers of 2, numbers of 3 will always be there, and you can only win it once, or twice, or 3 times. So why not let them mature and use that to our advantage later, rather than maximizing that now, bringing them back and have to race them against better horses in the numbers of 3. What happens if they start combining the numbers of 3, numbers of 4? All of a sudden, your 3-year-old, or maybe not even yet, maybe your 2-year-old turning 3, or a 3-year-old that just turned 3 has to race against 4 and 5-year-olds. That's not very fair to them. It's a tough way to start their sophomore season. And then how do we plan those sophomore seasons out? So every horse is different, but our goal is always the same: to turn those horses into the best form of themselves. So feel free. I hope I don't discourage anybody from messaging me. I always like to have the dialogue, and I always want to make sure that our clients understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, and what the end game is with the plan we have in place for any prospective horse. So there's your start to a Tuesday morning. Solidarity. Got our girl, gorgeous package today. Steph's Hope, Delicious Stone DK. A number of people asked me, and I hope you saw it in the other video, said, where can we watch these fairs for Ohio? Well, watch them on the Ohio Harness Horse Association Facebook page. That's where I watch them. You can see them all. We help bring those broadcasts to everybody from the fairs. We used to race a lot more at the fairs. Maybe we'll get back to it a little bit next year. There seems to be some sort of transition in Ohio where there's a lot more babies on the ground. A ton more races. And you look at gorgeous package today in Berea. She races for $7,700. It's not a bad purse, really. She was only racing for $13,000 in Scioto and having to go in 51. You know, nice filly. Nice fillies, but not a bad purse today in Berea. And a little food for thought. I was looking at the list. I said, Pink Jammies. How do I know that name? The 6 horse in that race, Pink Jammies, is the 3-year-old sister to Perfect Thought. So that's how you can watch Gorgeous Package race today. She'll race at 4:30 this afternoon. I'll race at, according to this, 6:17 at Scioto. We'll see if that goes off on time. And then I'm done for the evening, but we're not done for the evening. We still get to watch Delicious Stone DK. So good luck to everybody racing today. We actually have 4 horses racing today, not 3 like the calendar says. I messaged Curtis already this morning about that. He is in Newfoundland doing some sort. He went from the Hamiltonian to Newfoundland to do some sort of, I think it's Canada Games. He's in Newfoundland today. So, there you have it, your Tuesday update. Lots of stake racing coming up. Most of it towards the end of the week. We do have a little bit today. We do have a little bit tomorrow, but mostly Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. Friday, we have horses in Philadelphia. That's not true. Sweet Lake and My Name's Sweeney are in Philadelphia. So that's what we have going on today, the rest of the week, the weekend into next week. Good luck to everybody. I hope you have a wonderful day. 20 degrees as I drive through Celsius, so 72 degrees as I drive through Buffalo, New York. Take care.